Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Incident Management Cafe. I am joined by our VP of Technology, Robert Crum, and a special guest today as well, Mike Fuson from Excalibur Data Systems.
Hey, Cam.
Yeah, thanks for being on, Mike.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I know that we do a lot of these webinars kind of on your channel, so it's nice to have you on ours.
Well, I'm glad. I was happy to be invited.
Yeah,
It's it,
absolutely.
it's fun to come to the party as a guest.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. So really today I wanted to take the time to talk about a few things. So I know that we both just came back from a couple of events, right? Conferences. And so as I know that you have experience, you just went there. And then Bob, your presence and as well as experience with conferences in the past, what do you guys think that really the value is there, right? Obviously from a sales perspective, it's awesome. But as a vendor, if we go as a vendor, what value do you think these conferences and the ecosystem really brings to the table?
Well, it's interesting, Cam. My answer would have been different prior to the pandemic. Um, post pandemic, I think many of us have been in and around this industry for a long time,
Mhm.
and so we all kind of know each other. Players, names of companies may have changed, positions may have changed, but some of us are getting light in the hair or long in the tooth. And it was what I noticed. I was at Service Management World here just a few weeks ago, down in Orlando. I think everybody was excited to just see each other in person, get a chance to sit and sip a cocktail or have a glass of water or shake somebody's hand that you may have known for I know Bob can appreciate this 20 or more years, in the industry, and you haven't seen them for 5 years. And we used to see each other 2, 3, 4, 5 times a year pretty regularly, and just get a chance to catch up. For me, a really kind of goofy answer. I kind of giggle when I do this, is to be able to go around to see other vendors, because many of us have known each other for a long time, and see what the latest tchotchke is that we're
Yeah.
giving out at the conference, right? Because there's always somebody that's found that new kind of cool little thing, that hey, that's something I got to put on my list of things I want our marketing department to get for our next conference. That's kind of neat. Because that's a fun thing to do. But really, I look at many of these, and there's just a great community atmosphere that makes up these conferences. And like I said, it's that opportunity to catch up on personal life, as much as what's going on in the business. But I think from a conference perspective, many of the conferences I attend have vendors like yourselves, that are part and parcel to a larger ecosystem. And to find out that there's a new player in the ecosystem, or in some cases, there's somebody who's invented a new portion to the market, that's providing something that we all kind of, now that we see it, it's like, oh, well, why didn't I wish I would have thought of that. But it's neat to see how it continues to evolve, and to continue to see where people are going, and how we all kind of work collaboratively together, really to solve the customer's problems. And in so many cases, I see these cool technologies that are there, and you watch that. For me to stand back and watch a customer interaction, and you see that light bulb go on of how they're seeing how this may help solve a problem that they couldn't put their finger on, that they had, or didn't realize that they had. And I think that's what's valuable for the customers, but also valuable to us, as sponsors and vendors that are there to see what our contemporaries are doing, our competitors, as well, but also folks that we collaborate with to provide a whole solution. It's neat to kind of maybe hear where they're headed with things. And when you're able to do that in person, um, it just it can be such a great opportunity.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think my experience was the same, especially when you're talking about getting your ear to exactly what problems the community is facing. And one of the things that I realized, even being there, was that the community we are solving a certain problem for the community that they're phrasing in a different way. So
Mhm.
to let the broader audience know, hey, we can help you with that, or oh, this is the way that we collaboratively work with other systems to provide that solution, might exist as a framework, but it needs to be conveyed in a way that people will understand what benefit they're actually getting. Right. And I think that being able to have those discussions in person definitely beats being able to do it over Teams for the past 2.5 years.
Oh, for sure. Well, and the other thing of being able to um, do hundreds of demos in a day,
Yeah.
right? And some are short, some are longer, but you also start to hear from the customers that maybe you're starting to get a list of a whole bunch of customers have talked about a particular problem, and as you said, that maybe we're phrasing completely differently,
Yeah.
but it's addressing that problem, or it's a problem that we didn't realize existed to that degree, and we may have a way to solve it.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of a rapid marketing experiment as well, to really take all of that in, from the customers, and the different problems that they're trying to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob, what about your perspective? Kind of from an integration standpoint, what do you think? Where do you think the value of kind of this community as a whole, these community groups, these conferences really provide?
Well, first off, Mike, I like the tchotchkes, but honestly, I do go around and drop my business card in those fish bowls, hoping to get the big prize. I haven't won yet, but actually, I like meeting with the people. That's probably the biggest thing. I like, you know, doing face to face with everybody, prospective customers, vendors. From a vendor perspective, that's really where we talk about the integrations, some networking opportunities. It's always a big focus for us, really, with the Learn Ops is partnerships. It's huge. But yeah, I mean, these, and also, it's kind of good to see things getting back to normal post pandemic. Um, but yeah, it's a kind of a big treat to travel and go around and
Mhm.
visit the places. I always like to, whatever city I'm in, I try to sample some local food, because that's kind of what's different. Like if you're in New Orleans, you gotta do, whatever, Cajun or jambalaya or whatever it is, down there. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Definitely, and I think the ability, right, to talk to someone over Teams or even just in person throughout the course of your everyday work life is different because people are always on edge. People are always working on something, have their guard up a little. So the ability to freely just engage in conversations that you can understand effectively from a vendor perspective what problems they solve and see if there's an opportunity to solve a problem together, or alternatively from the customer to try and see where you really can solve the problems they're experiencing on a day to day.
Well, and it's like a little mini vacation at times too,
Yeah.
right? You're away from home. There's no dishes to do. There's no trash to take out. You can go out and I think about most of the conferences have some sort of party or event on one of the evenings, a VIP type of event, and you can get together and everybody can let their hair down, so to speak. Some of us have more difficulty with that than others. But whatever the theme is, you can put the hat on or the sunglasses on and go, listen to some music and just enjoy each other's company, um, and learn about people as well. One of the things I do is I'm an avid scuba diver. And so it's been interesting as we've kind of gotten into those more personal conversations to find out others that share a similar passion. And so it's not, so it doesn't have to be that work all the time.
Mhm.
Tomorrow we can go do a demo and talk about it, but know that we share a same, passion when, we're on our downtime.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of a neat opportunity is both the work kind of and the fun being all part of one event.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that with both of our experiences, definitely would recommend both of the conferences, Service Management World and IT Nation Connect. So if anyone's looking to engage in a great managed services conference or event, definitely would look them up. So the second topic, Mike, I wanted to talk to you about was with your experience, right? Your substantial experience with managed services, but then ITSM and PSA tools as a whole, right? And having seen as many service desk operations as you have, where do you think the real issues today or forward looking are going to be for the operations of a service desk for a managed services provider overall?
Well, I go back to the nascent days of technology. I remember being so excited when we did a bonded 56K set of modems and had a 128K dial-up line. Bob shaking his head. He remembers those days, then IDS, IDSN lines, and you couldn't even imagine the speeds. Or my very,
Well,
very,
like, just looking at WAN diagrams with numbers like 16, 32, 128, that's our best spot right there.
yeah, or being so excited to have a 100 megabyte flash drive.
Yeah.
How are we ever going to fill that? Technologies just march forward so quickly, and for MSPs, the whole environment has changed. One of the focuses would have been managing servers and managing desktop replacements. Well, today desktops and laptops are almost consumer type of item. They last longer, and when they're done, you just replace them, right? You're not fixing them as much as you might once have done. Much of the stuff doesn't sit on the servers; it's now sitting in the cloud. Most businesses the majority of businesses have gone to an Office 365 or a Google, type of setup for email and many other services. And so all of a sudden, the dynamics of the things that we would be dealing with as an MSP change in a very, very rapid way. All of a sudden, internet connections matter. They can't operate the business without that internet connection. When the internet connection was down, okay, email couldn't go out, but they could still do all their work. Now they can't get to their documents because they're stored in the cloud. And so the dynamics of what we've got to deal with really become a challenge. And businesses now, when we kind of look in a post-pandemic world, right, has changed things dramatically, I would imagine, in the MSP space, at least some of the MSPs that I talk to. It's changed things dramatically because people are working from home. People have moved. I know for a number of our customers, they just said, hey, you know what, we're going to work. IT works from home full time, move wherever you want. And people moved hundreds of miles away from where they live because that's where they wanted to be. They've got a high-speed internet connection, so they're good. Well, all of a sudden it becomes more challenging, and people are working, more of a dynamic schedule. Some of us work better later in the evening. Some of us work better early in the morning. And all of a sudden, from a support perspective, when you look at it from a service desk or an MSP perspective, issues can crop up almost any time. So how do we make sure that we're able to respond efficiently and in a way that makes a difference? And then, Cam, you and I were talking even earlier today how things have changed from a communications perspective. I remember not all that long ago that, hey, if you wanted to send an SMS message, you could send it through an email gateway. Well, I am hearing from customers, it doesn't work so well anymore. Not that it was perfect before, but now we've had a number of customers respond that one of the major providers, it could take hours, sometimes 12, for a message to go out through the gateway. Because I think the cell phone vendors are like, hey, we're tired of being your email pass-through kind of guys. There's all kinds of ways to connect direct to us via SMS. Use one of those. And that's become a major way that a lot of organizations communicate, especially from a support perspective, right? urgent things come through as an SMS. The other stuff goes through email because we all get
Yeah.
10,000 emails a day that we have to filter through. So if it comes through as a text on my phone, it's probably something much more urgent for me to look at.
Mhm.
And because we're so tethered to our phones, it's an easy way to get that communication out in that after hours where I may not be checking my email, but if I hear the ring for the text messaging, and with the way phones are today, I can set a special one if it's coming from a certain spot where I get that special ring, where I know that it's something I've got to take a look at. So to technologies, and not to sit here and shill connect the alert ops product, but I think the products like alert ops have become more central to communications and getting that information out. I look at some of the basic technologies that are used for broad communication to employees, like there's a security incident, and small things like that, or even things like in my community. You can sign up to get SMS messages if there's a community alert of some sort, like they have to close a road or those sort of things. This mode of communication has become so just embedded in our lives. How do we do that and allow ourselves to be as responsive as we need to be, or as we've agreed to be? In many cases, as an MSP,
Yeah.
right? We've agreed to an SLA. How do we ensure that we're meeting those customer demands? And the demands have changed. It's no more 8 to 5. Um,
Mhm.
Businesses are open longer hours. People are working different hours. The issues are going to come up at different times of day. And so, how can we respond to those quickly and effectively? And it's not waiting for an email to come in that says, I've got a ticket,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
When those urgent things happen, how do I get notified in a more urgent fashion? Or as we're working on things where maybe we've defined an outage, how do we make sure
Yeah.
communications are occurring effectively? That was something that we always struggled with as an MSP, even for smaller businesses. You wanted to make sure that the business owners and the stakeholders were aware. I think back in the olden days, Cam, you probably weren't even alive when we were doing this, but Bob remembers, people having Exchange servers on premise, and you'd have to take that down for maintenance occasionally. And the owners and stakeholders want to know when that system came back online. They want to know when everybody gets in the office tomorrow, everything's going to be functioning. There's no surprises. So how would we do that? Well, it was a real pain. It was very, very difficult to do, very challenging. And when you're an MSP, you've got 900 different ways you're doing it
Yep.
because each customer has different
Yeah.
stakeholders. Each customer has different ways they want it done. And leveraging a platform like AlertOps, as Cam, as you and I have gotten into it over the last couple of years, I'm going, man, boy, I wish I had something like this back when we had an MSP practice. All the time and heartache that it would have saved
Mhm.
by just simply automating very, very what are essentially very basic things,
Mhm.
but are
Yeah.
very time consuming things to do. And I think that's going to be what we're going to see happening more and more for MSPs is what are those time saving technologies that are going to help drive us forward? Because while the technology may cost us money, it's probably a fraction of the actual cost of if we had to
Mhm.
do those things manually. Because in the MSP world, every minute is money. Um,
Absolutely.
and that's I think that's what we're going to continue to see, and with what we've seen in our conversations, Cam, where MSPs have just broadly embraced alert ops and said, holy smokes, this is the better mousetrap that's been built. Look at all that I can do and the level of automation that you may want to have as part of it. Some of the things that I wish that we would have had. You get an alert and something is down.
Mhm.
For that particular customer, that particular application on that particular server has a habit of killing one of the services, and all somebody's got to do is restart the service, and everything's good.
Yep.
It's a continual issue that there's no resolution for because the vendor hasn't released a patch. Well, if I
Absolutely.
could triage and automatically have that done, that's dollars in the bank, man.
Mhm.
That's dollars in the bank instead of somebody having to get up in the middle of the night, log into their computer, go through secure connections, get all the way in. Now they've spent 20 minutes just logging in, and then they go click start service, and we're not going to have that problem again for now another 3 weeks to a
Yeah,
month, right?
absolutely.
Being able to leverage automation, and with what you guys have done with Alert Ops, where not only are the communications easier, but we also have that automation layer to the platform that lets us take care of some of those day-to-day things that we know are just things that need to be done.
Absolutely. And I really think that what you mentioned about communication, right? Communication is critical, especially today when we thought that the migration to the cloud, modern digital transformation, I feel like most IT teams were getting a semblance of a grasp over it. And then the rapid pace with which remote work took over, right? COVID completely changed the game of digital transformation as we were getting used to the notion of digital transformation. So I think that that area of communication starts to be critical, right? And from a communication perspective, making sure that everyone's on the same page, but then additionally, does someone need to have physical access to something, or does someone even need to interact with something for auto resolution, right? I see a lot of RPA companies and automation companies that are focused on this, and I definitely think that that's where the space is headed as well.
Oh, for sure. And the pandemic changed the world for so many businesses. Um, you know, we Excalibur as a company, we've always been a distributed business. We have personnel that are all over the North American continent.
Mhm.
So it wasn't a big leap for us, right? We've been using the GoToMeetings and then Teams as it came about, and these different technologies were nothing new to us. And for some businesses, it threw them into a tailspin because they weren't set up for people to remotely access the technology. And so I know it pushed cloud stuff
Mhm.
much more rapidly for a lot of businesses than maybe they were ready for. And so we're still feeling kind of the after effects of that as things kind of settle in. And I think for the employees, we've seen that pushback. You look at the news, right? Employees aren't necessarily ready to go back into the office. Some are, because some people work better in an office environment. Some seem to work better at home. Some like the flexibility. Some want kind of a mix of both. It's all over the map. And the companies I think that can offer the employee the experience that they're looking for are the ones that are going to end up retaining some of the best employees. I was asked a lot during the pandemic is, we work with customers to help them with the transition to work from home. Well, is this going to work? Is this going to, I'm like, I don't know that how it can't. We've been doing it for, 15 years.
Yeah.
Um, it'll be fine. Like the world's not going to end. It's not going to implode. It won't be bad, but it will be different. It will be something that will require some adjustment because you're used to one method. I think for us, we were kind of joking. What if we all had to work in the same office? We all had to move to the same city and work in the same office. That would be really weird for us to all be in the same room together at the same time. Because it rarely happens. But sometimes at a conference,
Yeah.
75% of us are there. But at the same time, that flexibility to kind of set your schedule. I think for a lot of my staff, they get offers to come back to corporate America all the time, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't think so." Uh, I have that flexibility where I'm an early riser, so I can start early in the morning. And if I need to take a break in the middle of the day, as long as my work's getting done and I've got my schedule set and customers are happy, I can make the adjustments that work for me as an individual. And that's changed things. But as we look at it from an MSP perspective and servicing our customers, being able to automate some of those things, so all of a sudden you don't have to have people paying attention to every minute detail all the time. Where you could automate and like you said, RPA and all of the different, 3-letter words that are out there that help with the automation of things are going have been part and parcel of what we're doing, but have become more central to what we're doing, because you can do so much with it. I look at what you guys can do in alert ops. I mean, yeah, if you haven't seen it, your mind will be blown. It's pretty crazy. What we can do in addition to the communications that are so key to everything that's happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Really appreciate it. I really appreciate you having you come on, Mike, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Bob, as usual, and catch you guys on the next one.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cam. Thanks for having me.